Dear learners, this is Shashi Ramachandran. In this video, you will learn how to calculate the cost of material consumed during the year. There are some consumable items like foodstuff, medicines, sports material, postage, stationery, etc., for which we have a opening stock and a closing stock as well. So these items are kept in a stock by not-for-profit organization, and out of the stock, cost of goods consumed is only shown in income and expenditure account. Why? Because it actually is a current year's expenses, and that only to be shown in a income and expenditure, because it records only the revenue items, that is being the expenses of the current year or the income of the current year. Now like goods consumed during the year has to be calculated so that it can be debited to income and expenditure account. And of course we debit the amount in income and expenditure account of the actual expenses, which is the goods which are consumed during the year. So in simple terms, if I say like a stationery is purchased for rupees 50,000 and already there is a stock of 30,000. So like now the stock is of 80,000. Out of this, if 50,000 is a closing stock, if the at the end of the year the stock which remain there is 50,000, this is something which is purchased during the year and this is a opening stock, then what is the balance? That 30,000 is the amount which is consumed during the year. So this is what we have to calculate, and this is what we have to debit in our income and expenditure account. So in simple terms, we can say that if this amount is given easily, we can calculate in this way, that purchases plus opening stock minus closing stock. Okay, but let's have a look. See, this is what I explained you just now. Total stationery purchase during the year, if this amount is given to you, it's of course this will be given in your receipts and payment on the credit side. Add opening less closing will give you the amount consumed. But in there is another case where if not purchases are given, if something given like amount which is paid for the particular item during the year, so amount paid may include the amount paid in advance, or it may include the creditors or the outstanding amount paid for the paid in the during the year, that is the amount which is in the beginning, the outstanding in the beginning. If this amount is also paid, so of course we have to take this out. The reason being, it's very clear, because this doesn't belong to the current year and we only record only the amount consumed during the year or for the current year. So of course now it depends what is given to you. If it says amount paid for stationery during the year, then of course you have to handle this advance money as well as creditor, and the concept is same: end advance less beginning advance plus creditor, just like your outstanding creditors at the end or outstanding at the end added, creditors in the beginning, or you can say outstanding in the beginning deduct. So depending what is given to you, if amount paid is given, it may include the advance and creditors, so you will be taking both. But if it says payment made for the current year, it says that current year payment made, so of course advance is excluded here. But there are chances that creditors of beginning year or the previous year has been paid during the year. Okay, that payment might be involved in this. Okay, so we are going to handle this, and of course there may be a end creditors or outstanding which is not taken here, but of course to debit the amount in income and expenditure to calculate the current year amount, we need to plus add that amount. Okay, so this also gives you payment made for the current year. If whatever payment is made, adding the outstanding at the end and deducting the current outstanding in the beginning will give you credit purchases. So if these two are not given separate, credit purchase plus cash will be your total purchases. So this way, depending what exactly is given to you, you are going to take that amount and start with that only. Suppose it says amount paid for stationery. If it says amount paid for stationery, of course you are going to take all this, and remember, if anything is missing, you are not going to take that, means leave that. Okay, so only the one which is given to you. Same way, if question may starts from payment made for current year, so in that case you are going to take all this, like you are going to handle this creditors. If cash purchases are given, you're going to add it, and then of course opening plus closing. And same way, if credit purchases are given for the current year, you will add cash purchases to know the total stationery or total purchases. And from this total purchases, if only total purchases are given, then of course we're going to add opening stock and closing stock to get this stationery consumed during the year, and this is the one amount which you are going to debit in your income and expenditure account. So this is all about the concept of this calculation, that how to calculate the cost of consumable goods. But we'll take some examples, some questions, and try to understand in that manner. So one more thing I want to explain here, this pattern I explained you just now, that amount paid for stationery, so depending whatever is given to you. And there's one more way, or the alternate is there. So instead of going this with the help of this step, taking going step by step, we can take all the add items together. Like advance paid in the beginning is added. I can start from the same thing, amount paid for stationery during the year ended 31st March, add advance paid. So all add items you can write it together. Same way, all the amount which are to be deducted can be written together. Okay, this way also you can calculate stationery consumed. And remember, you have to consider the cash purchase only if the creditors in the beginning or at the end are given. So any one or both, if it's given, you have to take this cash purchase. If nothing is mentioned, you assume whatever purchases you are getting, means after this whatever you are getting is your total purchase only. But if the question says credit, it's the vice versa. Like if creditors credit purchase, cash purchases are given, then in that case creditors are to be considered. If creditors credit purchases are given, then cash purchases are to be considered. Okay, moving to the next thing, few more things which you have to remember when there is no opening or closing balance. Now this calculation is done only if there is a opening and closing balance. Say if receipt and payment says that on the credit side of sorry, on the receipt payment side, of course credit side of receipt and payment, it says stationery, only word stationery, and there is no adjustment stating the opening and closing balance. So what we are going to assume, the amount which is paid, because it's written on the payment side, so of course it is paid during the year. Stationery amount which is paid during the year is actually equals to the consumption or consumed during the year, because since it's not given, opening and closing are not given, so of course we are not going to calculate any amount, such amount. We'll assume it, this is the one which is the amount is paid for this stationery, this is the one which is purchased as well as spent, so consumed. Okay, and a stationery purchase during the year is given, then creditors are already adjusted in it. So as I explained you just now, that purchases, if it says purchases, that means cash and credit purchase both are included. But if something is missing, if one is given, another you have to take. Cash purchase given, you have to search for the credit purchase. Credit purchase is given, you have to search for the cash purchase. Okay, now let's see how it is going to be shown in books of account. So in a balance sheet, mainly we show it this way only. If it is an opening balance sheet or a closing balance sheet, the stock of supplies, stock of stationery, stock of medicine will be shown on the asset side only. This stock is an asset. This is for the opening stock. This is for the closing stock. Advance is your um, asset, because you paid the advance till the you are going to receive the supplies later date, and creditor is your amount which is to be paid, due, so it becomes your liability. And on the in income and expenditure account, the consumed amount which you have calculated, that is to be shown as on the debit side as to sub whatever item it is, like to stationery, to medicine, whatever. So remember, as I said, the stationery, if only stationery is there is no other adjustment or information, then the entire stationery amount will be transferred to this income and expenditure debit side, assuming that it is all consumed. So let's take an example now. This is a question given. Here you have some items given, and you have to calculate the amount which is to be debited to income and expenditure account in respect to stationery item consumed. So you have to calculate the consumption. Let's have a look what and all is given. Stock, opening stock is given, amount paid for stationery. So now we have to look for our table. That in a table, if amount paid it says, then we have to consider all, that is advance as well as creditors. So opening stock is given, closing stock is given, advances are given for the beginning and the end, same way the creditors are given. So only thing, you have to write the same way the table. Okay, as I told you, you can take all the add items together. So creditors at the end, advance paid in the beginning, opening stock, all these are the add items, less creditors in the beginning, advance paid, closing. So this way you can get all this by writing the amount and deducting, you'll get the final answer. Let's take another example. This is a question given to you which says that calculate again the amount of stationery to be debited to income and expenditure account where you are given cash purchases. So we have to remember, now it's a cash purchase. So we have to look for the credit purchase also, then opening plus closing. So again for the creditors, it's given due for stationery on a closing date. So this is nothing but creditors in the creditors at the end, due for stationery at a closing date. So this is creditors at the end. So as I said, when you are given with the cash purchase, of course you have to look for creditors. If credit, something related to credit is given, creditor in the beginning, creditor at the end, definitely it is to be considered. So the same note, and then you have this thing, means cash purchases, you started with cash purchases here. So creditors at the end, creditors in the beginning, all this stuff. So whatever is missing, just leave it. There's no need to show this. I just wanted to explain the thing. So as it is, I have taken the table, the one which is given, I have written that, and leaving the one which is not there in the question. So of course you have to take here creditors at the end. Reason is very clear because it's here, it is cash purchases. So we'll take one more example to make the thing clear. This, in this example it says that you are given with a table where you have a creditors in the beginning, creditors at the end, stock also, the opening stock and the closing stock is given. Then it says during 2018-19 payment made to the creditors. So it says payment made to the creditors. So here the payment made during the year is given. So of course we'll be starting with that only. And also it says stationery purchase. So payment made to the creditor makes, say there is credit payment. So we have to search for the cash thing, cash purchases. And cash purchases, I can see here stationery purchase in cash during the year was 20% of the total purchase. So we can easily calculate once we get a credit purchase. So let's have a look. Same table I drew here, calculation of a credit purchase, payment made for stationery, add at the end one, less the beginning, you will get this as a credit purchase for stationery. Now you have credit purchase and it says total purchases, you know, it's equal to cash purchase plus credit purchase. Where credit purchase are given, you have to calculate only cash purchase. So if 20% is a cash purchase, then of course uh, credit purchase is 80. So this way you're going to calculate credit purchase are 80, cash purchase are 20. If credit purchase are 1,20,000, from where you got this point. Here you calculated 1,20,000. So this way you will get the cash purchases amount is 30. Okay, now you have cash purchase, you have credit purchase, you have opening stock, and you have a closing stock. So now we'll move to the next thing. Total purchases we can easily calculate by adding the two, cash and credit. We'll get total purchases. And now only thing, the last part of the table, which is total stationery purchase during the year, opening stock add, closing stock minus, and finally we have a amount of stationery consumed. So this way, this topic is over where we have calculated. We learned to calculate how this goods consumed during the year. Actual expenses of particular item is calculated, which is supposed to be debited to income and expenditure account. So hope you like this video. Share this video with your friends and do subscribe to my channel Exuberant Learners. Also click on the bell icon to get the latest updates on my channel. Thank you.